What if the lights went out tonight and never came back on? Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. That is not a question from a movie trailer. It is a scenario that military planners, intelligence analysts, and emergency preparedness experts have been modeling for decades. The threat is real, the capability exists, and the uncomfortable truth is that the vast majority of people living in modern developed nations have absolutely no plan for what comes next. A single high-altitude detonation above the center of the continental United States could, within one fraction of a second, fry the electronic nervous system of an entire civilization. Power plants go offline. Water treatment facilities stop pumping. Vehicles manufactured after the early 1980s refuse to start. Refrigerators become insulated boxes, so hospitals lose backup power within hours. And the supply chains that deliver food to grocery store shelves, chains with virtually zero buffer inventory, grind to a permanent halt. What happens to a population of 300 million people when the infrastructure sustaining their daily lives simply ceases to function? According to findings from a congressional commission specifically convened to assess this risk, the answer is grim. Up to 90% of the population could face fatal consequences within the first 12 months of a sustained nationwide blackout. Not because the technology cannot eventually be repaired, but because the vast majority of people have no knowledge, no supplies, and no plan for navigating even the first 72 hours without electricity. That gap between those who understand what is coming and those who will be blindsided is exactly what this video is designed to close. What follows are 11 specific actions, listed in order of priority, that separate those who freeze from those who function when the grid goes permanently dark. These are not theoretical ideas pulled from science fiction. They are practical, field-applicable protocols built around how humans actually behave under extreme stress and resource scarcity. Work through each one carefully. Your retention of this information may matter more than you currently realize. The very first action is also the most overlooked, and that is verification. Before you do anything else, you need to determine with reasonable certainty whether what you are experiencing is a standard utility failure or something far more serious. This distinction is not minor. It determines the entire posture of your response. A routine power outage is a nuisance. It is caused by a blown transformer, a fallen tree on a power line, or a localized grid failure. It affects a few blocks or a few neighborhoods. It is repaired within hours. An electromagnetic pulse event is categorically different. It affects everything simultaneously across hundreds or thousands of miles, and it does not get fixed by a utility crew in a truck. Walk outside. Look at your surroundings. Is the darkness isolated to a few houses, or does it extend in every direction as far as you can see? Are car alarms triggering in random bursts across the street? Are vehicles that were running moments ago now sitting completely silent and unresponsive? These are early signals. The definitive test lies in your battery-operated devices. A conventional power failure leaves your smartphone battery intact. It leaves your flashlight working. It leaves a portable radio functional. Those devices draw from self-contained power sources that have nothing to do with the electrical grid. If your battery-powered flashlight works, but the power is out, you are almost certainly dealing with a standard blackout. Remain calm and wait it out. But if your smartphone is a black screen despite having been fully charged an hour ago, and if your battery-powered clock has stopped, if a neighbor's car, your car, and the car across the street are all dead simultaneously, that is a convergence of signals that points towards something catastrophic. That first hour of confirmation shapes everything that comes after it. A misread situation leads to a mismatched response. Know what you are actually facing before you act. The second action begins the moment verification tips toward a large-scale electromagnetic event, and it has a timer attached. You have somewhere between 30 and 90 minutes to secure a meaningful water supply before municipal taps run completely dry. Here is why that window is so short. City water systems do not operate on gravity alone. They rely on large electric pumping stations to move treated water from reservoirs and storage tanks into the pressurized network of pipes that delivers water to homes and businesses. And the moment those pumps lose power, the system begins depressurizing. Residual pressure in the lines keeps water flowing briefly, then it stops. Do you understand why that is critical? Once pressure drops, the water is gone. It will not return until those pumps are restored. And in an electromagnetic pulse scenario, restoration is not a matter of days. It is a matter of months or longer. Move immediately. Open every faucet in your home. Fill every container you possess, pots, pitchers, cleaned buckets, garbage bins, lined with plastic bags, and every reusable bottle on the shelf. Fill your bathtubs first. A standard residential bathtub holds roughly 50 gallons. That alone, for a family of 4 at 1 gallon per person per day, for drinking and minimal sanitation, is nearly 2 weeks of baseline hydration. Do not forget your water heater. That appliance, sitting quietly in your utility room or basement, contains between 30 and 50 gallons of clean, drinkable water stored inside its tank. Before drawing from it, close the cold water intake valve. This prevents the clean water inside from siphoning backward into the now depressurized city lines once municipal pressure collapses completely. 1 gallon per person per day is a conservative minimum. It accounts for drinking and basic hygiene, but not cooking, washing, or sanitation beyond the essentials. Secure more than you think you need. The time you spend filling containers in the first hour is among the highest return investments of your early survival window. You can address questionable water sources later through boiling or chemical treatment. What you cannot do is manufacture water from nothing once the pipes have run dry. Fill everything. Do it now. The third action runs concurrently with water collection and involves the food already sitting in your refrigerator and freezer. The moment the power died, a biological countdown began. Your refrigerator will hold food at safe temperatures for approximately 4 hours. Your freezer, if kept sealed, buys you roughly 48 hours if it is fully stocked, or around 24 if it is only half full. That timer is not flexible. Bacterial growth in perishable foods does not negotiate. Your first instinct will be to open the fridge and take stock of what is inside. Resist that instinct. Every time you open that door, you are trading cold air for warm, ambient air. Treat those appliances as sealed vaults for as long as physically possible. The less you open them, the longer the contents remain viable. Instead, mentally triage your most vulnerable items. Ground meat, dairy products, cooked leftovers, raw eggs, and open condiments are your highest risk foods. These should be cooked and consumed in your first meals, not preserved. Trying to save them is how you end up with food poisoning on top of a grid-down crisis. Cook them, eat them, and move on. For the freezer, fill any empty airspace with sealed water containers. The denser the frozen mass, the longer it holds temperature. Wrap the outside of the appliance in blankets for additional insulation. If it is winter and outdoor temperatures are reliably below freezing, relocate perishable goods to sealed outdoor containers, elevated off the ground, and secured against wildlife. Everything in a can or sealed dry package, beans, rice, pasta, oats, canned vegetables, canned proteins, is stable. Those items are not your concern right now. Your concern is stopping the clock on the perishable food you already have before it becomes useless. The fourth action is one that most people will be completely unprepared for, and that is acquiring and consolidating physical currency. Think about what actually happens to money in an electromagnetic pulse event. Every card reader in every store in the affected zone stops working. Every ATM goes dark. Every mobile payment application is non-functional. Every point-of-sale terminal is a brick. Your bank account, your investment portfolio, your digital wallet, all of it exists as numbers on servers that are either fried or inaccessible. What does that leave? Paper. Physical cash becomes the only instrument of exchange in the immediate aftermath, not because it has intrinsic value, but because it is universally recognized and requires no infrastructure to transfer. A $20 bill works in the dark. A contactless payment does not. Search your home now, in your mind. How much physical cash do you actually have on hand? Most people in modern economies carry less than $40 in bills. In a collapse scenario, that is gone within the first day. Search every wallet, every coat pocket, every drawer where you habitually toss change. Gather every bill and secure it on your person or in a concealed location in your home. Prioritize small denominations, ones, fives, and tens, because in a crisis economy, no one will be making change. Offering a $100 bill for a $10 item means you are either losing $90 or the deal does not happen. Small bills are transactional. Large bills are liabilities. Also, begin identifying your barter inventory. Physical cash will hold value in the first days and weeks. Over time, as the reality of long-term disruption sets in, tangible goods will displace paper money entirely. Items like sealed medications, alcohol, tobacco products, batteries, propane canisters, matches, and manual tools will become the real currency of exchange. Understand what you have that others will want and protect it carefully. The fifth action is medical preparation, and it is one that most people instinctively push down their list because it feels less urgent than food and water. That is a dangerous instinct. Without functioning hospitals, clinics, or pharmacies, a condition that would be minor today can become life-threatening within days. A deep cut that is not properly cleaned and dressed can lead to infection. An infection that is not treated can become sepsis. Sepsis without medical intervention can kill. Locate your first aid supplies immediately and conduct an honest inventory. Do you have enough gauze and bandaging material to dress a significant wound? Do you have antiseptic solution, medical tape, and wound closure strips? Do you have a tourniquet? And more importantly, do you or anyone in your household know how to apply one correctly? Prescription medications deserve immediate attention. If any member of your household depends on daily medication for blood pressure, diabetes, heart conditions, or psychiatric stability, you need to calculate how many days of supply you currently have on hand. If that number is less than 30 days, that is a vulnerability. Insulin requires refrigeration. Without power, its viability window is measured in days unless you have a cooling solution in place. Over-the-counter medications that seem trivial in normal life become precious in a grid-down scenario. Ibuprofen manages fever and inflammation. Antihistamines address allergic reactions. Antidiarrheal medication prevents fatal dehydration from gastrointestinal illness. Broad-spectrum antibiotics, if legally accessible in your jurisdiction, are arguably among the most valuable items you can possess in a collapse scenario. Build your medical knowledge alongside your physical supplies. Knowing how to use a tourniquet matters as much as having one. Knowing the signs of infection, dehydration, or shock allows you to intervene before a survivable problem becomes fatal. Study these skills now. while the resources to learn are freely available. The sixth action is shelter security assessment. Your home provides your most immediate and fundamental layer of protection, not just from weather, but from the social deterioration that accelerates rapidly after a grid-down event. History and human psychology both point in the same direction here. When resources become scarce and authority structures collapse, a segment of the population will pursue what they need through force or deception. This is not a cynical view of human nature. It is a documented pattern across every significant societal disruption on record. You do not need to view every neighbor as a threat. You do need to take your home security seriously before that threat materializes. Conduct a walkthrough of your home with fresh eyes. Test every door lock. Deadbolts are your first line of defense. Standard latch locks are not sufficient against a determined forced entry. Reinforce door frames if possible, because the frame itself is usually the point of failure during a kick-in, not the lock. Inspect every ground floor window. Any accessible window is a potential entry point. After dark, the presence of light inside your home signals to others that you have resources, power, candles, food, that they may lack. Use heavy curtains, blankets, or any light-blocking material to prevent interior light from being visible from the street. Do not advertise your preparedness. The goal is to appear as affected and as ordinary as everyone else around you. This concept is sometimes called the gray man approach, the idea that blending in completely is a more effective survival strategy than projecting strength. Establish a watch rotation among capable adults in your household. Someone should be awake and alert at all times during the night, not because an attack is inevitable, but because early warning is the single greatest advantage in any security situation. Fatigue degrades judgment and reaction time, so rotation should be kept to manageable intervals of a few hours. The seventh action addresses one of the most psychologically destabilizing aspects of any grid-down event, and that is the sudden severance of communication between family members. In the seconds after an electromagnetic pulse event, the technologies you use to stay connected to the people you love stop working. Cell towers go dark. The internet goes down. Landlines, which rely on electronic switching infrastructure, become non-functional. If your family is not physically together when the event occurs, if your children are at school, your partner is at work, your parents are across town, you have no way to reach them and no way to know if they are safe. That uncertainty is not merely uncomfortable. It is the kind of thing that drives people to make dangerous, impulsive decisions. A parent who cannot reach their child will cross an entire city on foot if necessary, potentially putting themselves in situations of serious risk in the process. The solution is not a technological one, it is a human one. Establish a predetermined rally plan that every member of your family knows by heart. Designate a primary meeting point, typically the family home, and establish clear protocols for getting there. If the event occurs during school hours, children need to know that a trusted adult will come to them. If a parent cannot reach the school, children need to know to shelter in place or proceed to a designated secondary point. If the school itself is inaccessible, what is the next meeting location? Secondary and tertiary rally points should be well-known landmarks or trusted family addresses that every member can navigate to without a phone or GPS. Practice these routes on foot. Do not assume your family knows the plan. Say it out loud, confirm it, rehearse it. A family that reunites within hours of an event faces a fundamentally different challenge than one that spends days separated. The eighth action is a food inventory and immediate rationing protocol. You have stabilized your perishable food. Now you need to know exactly what shelf-stable resources you have, and you need to start managing them like the finite survival resource they are. This is a mathematical exercise. Go through every cabinet, pantry, and storage location in your home. Write everything down physically, every can, every bag of dried grain, every sealed package of anything with caloric value. Do not estimate, count precisely. An adult human requires approximately 2,000 calories per day to maintain basic function under normal conditions. Under the physical and psychological stress of a survival scenario, that requirement may shift upward. But resource scarcity may force you to function on considerably less. Run the numbers honestly. If you have 4 people in your household and your total caloric inventory is 80,000 calories, you have 10 days of food at normal consumption rates. Cutting that to 1,500 calories per day extends the same supply to nearly 14 days. Dropping to 1,200 calories per day, which is uncomfortable but survivable in the short term, extends it further. Every day you gain through disciplined rationing is another day for the situation to stabilize, for alternative food sources to emerge, or for you to locate resupply options. Begin rationing on day 1. Do not wait until the shelves are nearly empty to start conserving, because by then, the psychological pressure of scarcity will make rational decision-making significantly harder. Shift your relationship to food immediately. Meals are no longer occasions, and they are fuel deliveries. Repetitive, simple, and calorie efficient. Lentils, rice, oats, canned fish, and beans will sustain you far longer than more palatable options. Eat what sustains. Save what you need. The 9th action is perimeter security and situational awareness. This goes beyond locking your doors. It is about developing an ongoing systematic awareness of your immediate environment and what is changing within it. Social breakdown does not announce itself, it escalates in stages. In the first 24 to 48 hours, most people are in a state of shocked disbelief, waiting for the situation to resolve itself. By day 3 or 4, as the reality of extended disruption sets in, desperation begins to manifest in visible ways. By the end of the first week, communities without security structures in place can deteriorate significantly. You do not need to predict exactly when or how that deterioration will reach your street. You need to see it coming early enough to respond rather than react. Walk your perimeter regularly. Note any changes. Unfamiliar vehicles parked nearby. Individuals walking through the neighborhood in a pattern that does not match normal behavior, signs of stress or conflict between neighbors. None of these are automatically threats, but early awareness gives you options. Options are what you want in a dynamic and deteriorating situation. Inside your home, discipline your household on light and noise management. Cooking food when your neighbors are likely hungry is an invitation. The smell of a hot meal carries further than you might expect. Time your cooking strategically and manage ventilation. Do not run a loud generator unless there is no alternative, and even then, weigh the risk of advertisement against the benefit of power. The 10th action moves your focus outward, from your own household to the small community of people surrounding it. This is a critical pivot point that many survival-focused individuals resist, and it is a mistake to resist it. Isolated households, no matter how well prepared, have fundamental limitations. You cannot maintain continuous security overnight for months on end with 1 or 2 adults without deteriorating into dangerous exhaustion. You cannot diagnose and treat a serious illness without medical knowledge. You cannot repair complex mechanical or structural failures without relevant skills. You cannot grow enough food to sustain a family in a suburban yard without agricultural knowledge and labor. A small, carefully chosen group of trusted neighbors addresses all of those gaps simultaneously. In the early days, observe before you engage. Who around you is staying calm and making rational decisions? Who is sharing information rather than hoarding it? Who possesses skills, medical, mechanical, agricultural, logistical, that complement your own? These are the people worth approaching carefully. Start with a security conversation, a block-level watch arrangement where a small number of trusted households coordinate night watch rotations, immediately multiplies your effectiveness and reduces individual burden. From there, skill sharing and resource pooling can develop organically as trust accumulates. Be measured about sharing physical resources like food early in the process. Trust needs to be established and reciprocity confirmed before deep resource interdependence makes sense. But information, skills, and coordinated security can be shared almost immediately with minimal risk and substantial collective gain. A neighborhood that functions as a cohesive unit, even a small one of 5 or 6 households, is vastly more resilient than a collection of isolated individuals waiting for help that will not come. The 11th action is perhaps the least tactical, but the most foundational for long-term survival, and that is the deliberate construction of psychological stability. An electromagnetic pulse event is not a short-term emergency. It is not a hurricane where you shelter for 2 days and then the cleanup begins. Genuine recovery from a large-scale electromagnetic pulse attack, based on available engineering assessments, could take between 1 and 4 years. That is not a timeline that most people's mental frameworks are equipped to process. The psychological shock of realizing that modern conveniences are not temporarily unavailable, that they are gone for an indefinite period, can be completely debilitating. The human mind is extraordinarily resilient, but it requires structure. It requires purpose. It requires the sense that effort produces outcome. Without those things, hopelessness sets in, and hopelessness is lethal in a survival scenario. Build a daily routine immediately and enforce it with intention. Assign consistent wake times. Structure the day around specific tasks: water management, food preparation, security duties, maintenance work, and periods of rest. Give every member of the household a defined role and a defined responsibility. Children need tasks that are age-appropriate but genuinely useful. Adolescents need meaningful contributions, not just chores designed to keep them busy. Adults need to feel like their efforts are mattering. Boredom is not a minor inconvenience in a grid-down scenario. It is a direct pathway to anxiety, conflict, and deteriorating decision-making. Physical books, board games, musical instruments, journals, drawing materials, any resource that stimulates the mind and provides a sense of engagement with something beyond survival mechanics should be deliberately incorporated into your daily rhythm. Maintaining morale is not a soft concern. It is a survival variable. You also need to build a framework for confronting the emotional weight of what has happened. People will grieve. They will grieve the lives they had, the certainty they lost, the people they cannot reach. That grief is legitimate, and it should not be suppressed. What it needs is structure and community. Talking about what has been lost as a family and as a trusted group prevents that emotional weight from calcifying into dysfunction. Maintain your sense of identity and your values under pressure. The decisions you make about how to treat the people around you with honesty, fairness, and mutual respect are not just ethical choices. They are the foundation of the social bonds that your collective survival depends on. These 11 actions form a layered and sequenced framework for surviving the first hours, days, and weeks following an electromagnetic pulse event. Each one builds on the one before it. Each one addresses a specific, documented vulnerability in how modern people respond to catastrophic infrastructure failure. None of them require expensive equipment or specialized training to begin. All of them require one thing above all else, and that is a decision to take the threat seriously before it arrives. There is a principle in emergency preparedness that is worth sitting with. The preparations that feel unnecessary right now are the ones that will matter most when they are needed. Every hour spent thinking through these protocols, building these skills, and assembling these resources is an hour that pays dividends across a wide spectrum of potential crises, not just an electromagnetic pulse event, but extended storm damage, infrastructure cyber attacks, regional supply chain disruptions, and any scenario in which the systems you rely on daily stop functioning. The gap between those who navigate a crisis and those who are consumed by it is rarely about physical strength or raw intelligence. It is almost always about prior knowledge and prior decisions. People who thought through contingencies in advance, who built basic resilience into their daily lives without becoming defined by fear or paranoia, are the ones who remain functional and effective when the circumstances around them collapse. That is what this channel is built around. Practical, actionable knowledge that converts the uncertainty of a dangerous world into something navigable. If this video provided you with information you can use, if it shifted your thinking even slightly toward readiness, do something useful with that reaction right now. Hit the like button so that this content reaches more people who need it. Subscribe to my channel so you do not miss the next installment of practical preparedness knowledge. Choosing to be informed is itself an act of survival. Make that choice. The lights may stay on for years. They may go out tomorrow. What matters is not the timing. What matters is whether you are ready when it counts.